Welcome back to the program Africa. If you're just joining us, this is Bottomline Africa. Even as Kenyans come to terms with the implementation of the plastic ban, its East African counterpart Rwanda has been plastic bag-free since 2008. Rwanda completely banned plastic bags when other countries around the world were struggling with plastic waste. Our Kigali-based correspondent Eugenia Nangwe spoke to Engineer Kolitha Ruhamia, the Director General of the Rwandan Environment Management Authority, REMA, who shared lessons from Rwanda's plastic ban.
In 2004, Rwanda made a bold move through a cabinet directive that banned the use of plastic bags in the country. Kolitha Ruhamia is the Director General of the Rwanda Environment Management Authority, and she tells me that the country went on to implement the cabinet directive, even as the legal process of creating the law prohibiting the use of plastic bags was still in the works.
I don't know whether we are here, but that all the plastic bags were scattered all over the country, actually, not only in Kigali. You could see these plastic black ones and those transparent ones, you could see them all over the place because people had a culture of littering, and plastics were used in everything, including packaging water for drinking and milk and everything.
Just like in Kenya, in Rwanda, there was also a level of resistance to the new directive by a section of citizens and institutions.
But the good thing, I think, we had a very strong political will, and also the process we went through, engaging other stakeholders, engaging the community, educating them that we need a clean environment. I think people started enjoying the clean environment, and then they came on board also to participate in the implementation of the law.
Kolitha says Rwanda managed to turn the fears of impending job losses due to the ban on plastic bags into opportunities.
When we stopped plastics, it was an opportunity for other companies to invest in alternative packaging. I think you have been around, you can see these paper bags, these packages for packaging breads. Those are emerged, new industries that were emerged or were born as the result of banning plastics. It was an opportunity also for clean and green investment or green industries. So I want to tell the Kenyans and the other fellow in the region and outside the region that when we ban plastics, it's an opportunity also to invest in alternative or changing the way we do things. So it is also another opportunity to create more jobs and, more importantly, clean jobs.
A drive around Kigali.
Well, those lessons from Rwanda, a country that initiated its own plastic ban in the year 2008. Kenya did it this year, to be specific, about a month ago. Now, joining me in studio, 4 individuals who are going to help me discuss this topic that has everything to do with the regional's environmental management. And from Morocco, we are joined by Dr. Benson Ochieng, he is an environmental law expert. And then here in studio, we have Dr. Stanley Karanja, who is a business and political analyst. And then we have NEMA Director General, Professor Geoffrey Wahungu, who is going to join us all the way from Mombasa, as well as Dr. Isaac Kalua, who is the founder of Green Africa Foundation. He is here with us in studio. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the program. Let me just start with Benson. Now, Benson, good evening. I understand you've been in the process, of coming up with a regional kind of legislation that will help in the ban of these plastic bags in the East African region. Do you think there's need to have some sort of a concerted, regional effort to ban these plastic bags?
Definitely. We are very porous borders. Banning any one of the East African countries without similar or corresponding effort in the other countries would amount to nil. Actually, it would make nonsense of the efforts because there is a lot of movement across the borders. And of course, we are talking of moving as East African community with the customs union and of course, common interests. So there has been this effort, which has been there for close to 10 years now at the East African Legislative Assembly to have the plastic ban, of course, with sometimes 1 step forward and 2 steps back. This is an idea whose time has come, and I hope that the East African community will put its house in order and that all the countries are going to subscribe to this important endeavor. Kenya and Rwanda have led the way. Uganda has been going back and forth on it. But I think Tanzania has been rather slow to come on board in this important agenda. I hope it happens soon.
So these East African countries having some sort of a porous border, you've already mentioned, this might be a situation of 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. And Benson, I'll come to you shortly. But for now, let me go straight to the NEMA Director General, that is Professor Geoffrey Wahungu. Good evening, Prof. And can you bring us to speed on, how are you so far with the ban? Have Kenyans complied?
So far, actually, during the first day of the implementation, we saw a lot of especially in the carrier bag, Kenyans very well. We have recorded quite impressive development along this line. For 2 weeks now, we have been monitoring and creating more awareness. We think that this law came at the right time because Kenyans seem to have already had enough of plastic. We have made very few arrests. And
with Professor Geoffrey Wahungu, who is the NEMA's Director General. And this is where I want to bring in Dr. Stanley Karanja. I'm sure you've been observing things in the country since that ban was initiated. Now, from your own observation, do you think NEMA is on the right track so far?
Yusuf, this far that the NEMA has done a great work ensuring that the plastic, because it's a menace around the country, that is managed. And but one thing we must put into context, the Kenyans had appreciated and were willing completely to appreciate the ban. But there came so many hullabaloos about this issue of plastic bag. Maybe it's like what the director, professor, is talking about, that continuous awareness. But one model that I may would to say that the NEMA did a good job. That's the Kenya government, that's the Jubilee government. They did a fantastic job to, first of all, to take the bull by the horns, because this is something that many people were thinking they will have also political backfiring to the people who are going to take the decision. But again, the Jubilee government did that very well. And they did, if we apply a certain model we use in business called AIDA, where you first of all create awareness, you interest the people. That one has been done very well. The desire of every Kenyan to wish not to use the paper bag has gone very well. Now, the action part, whereby when the date 28th of August, when we reached on that date, Kenyans were ready to put away with the paper bags. But now, 2 days, 3 days later, when even the police were coming into play, then issues of bribery started coming in. And then there was a statement from NEMA which said, oh, the police should not harass people. We have another 2 weeks. We are going to implement this. And yet the Kenyans had already accepted and were willing to do away with paper bags.
Yes.
And, they had already seen the challenges that are going to come with it. You could see, even if you go to Nairobi today, you go down to Nakuru, you'll meet people buying things and carrying with their hands, or they have special bags that they have invested. So it shows one side, the NEMA has done a good job. The effect of the plastic ban is working, but we need to do more to be able to make it happen. For example, if you compare it with Rwanda, Rwanda, when you're entering Rwanda, even with a bag, the whole bus, people get out, each and every bag is searched. Women, they will queue with a woman agent who's gonna check each and every bag, and there'll be penalties for that. Such a level of implementation, that's what also we need in this country, and I believe it can happen.
Let me cross over to Dr. Isaac, who's the founder of Green Africa Foundation. Now, you've seen what has been happening since, the ban was initiated here in Kenya. Do you think Kenyans have fully complied, and perhaps if there are challenges, that NEMA has faced during this implementation time?
Thank you for having me. I believe Kenyans are yet to get used to this. It's, anything new comes with challenges, and I believe this is what we are starting to deal with. But as a country, we believe that where we are coming from is a situation that we overstayed, and therefore we must be able to move on. I think what we start to imagine is the immediate need of policies to be in place. Policies that are going to help us as a country to move forward, to take this item to be of advantage, to be sustainable to the people, so that people understand why they are doing this. We need to deal with issues of waste management, the awareness issues, so that people can continue understanding what this is all about, issues of collection, the transportation process, so that there is an advantage, and at every level we are actually creating businesses. We need to deal with issues of segregation, issues of recycling, issues that go beyond recycling into disposal, and even further to minimization and control. And this needs to be looked at as a business at every level. And I believe once we start doing this, Kenyans will start to appreciate if we do it in a way that leaves a good trait. And
exactly.
The need to have,
yes,
to
and,
have
and this is where I want to bring the NEMA Director General once again. Earlier we had communications problem with him. Now, Professor Geoffrey, so far how will you rate the implementation process? Has it been successful? Well, I understand that we still have issues with his communication there, but let me play that question back to you, Dr. Stanley. Do you think the ban has been successful so far in Kenya?
The ban is successful this far, but the effect, we cannot, because so far we've not had major rains, and that's where the menace of issue of plastic bags is seen. And I would say one thing to NEMA, Kenyans, we are willing to do away with paper bags.
Yes.
Yes, as also Dr. Isaac's talking about, that there's recycling, how we're going to do it. But the NEMA had reached a point also, they looked shy. But also come on the side of the media, creation of awareness. And I must congratulate the Standard Group, the KTN News, starting getting back into this great topic in this country, that we need to continuously be discussing about it, so that people should appreciate and remain top of mind, now, that we need to do away with these plastic bags.
Now, Dr. Isaac, let's look at the alternatives, because reports indicate that Rwanda have come up with, viable alternatives to plastic bags, and it's also creating employment. Do you think Kenya has gotten to that position where, these alternatives to plastic bags are giving people employment?
Definitely, and I think when we are looking at alternatives, we need to look at industry, something that the Kenya Association of Manufacturers were working on. When you touch the lives of people in a positive way, then there is no struggle in dealing with some of these things. As we deal with alternative, we need to look at it in a much wider way. How are we going to create industries around this area? The sisal industry is lame. Yet, when you look at the global sisal industry and market, it is huge. Look at what we have as alternatives in wood production, so that all these industries are being built so that we can have alternatives that are sustainable, and people are actually looking at jobs in a manner that is so powerful. When you look at the Hyacinth at the Lake Victoria and other places, all these are products, that raw materials that may be able to be used. Yes, alternatives, and including also tax regimes that we can look at, so that the alternative is actually sustainable for the good of the people. So job creation, looking at the industries that have the potential of creating even greater jobs, just like what the Kenya Association of Manufacturers was working on. People may think that they just didn't want to continue with the business, but actually is the breeding of the alternatives. And I think I salute them for having accepted this process to go on and also participating in leading the...
And this is where I want to bring Professor Geoffrey Ongo, the NEMA Director General, into this conversation. Now, Prof, finally we've sorted out the communications, the audio issues there with you. How would you rate the ban in Kenya so far? Has it been successful?
Ibrahim, the ban now is 2 weeks into compliance. We have recorded very good success, particularly by the citizens and with regard to the carrier bags. We have been also creating awareness. There is a little bit of implementation difficulty with regard to communication, especially in the far-reaching areas of Kenya. However, what we see now is a little uptick and particularly flooding of the market with alternatives.
Yes.
But we think this problem has been because there was an issue of wait and see from the manufacturers who would have taken up this duty of actually providing alternatives because they are the manufacturers.
Now, Prof,
I want to...
Now, Prof, critics say that, you know, there's need to come up with some sort of a sustainable waste management because they're saying plastic contribute to just 5% of the solid waste. So what is NEMA doing with the other 95%?
The other 95% is compostable. It is waste you can easily deal with. I know that the figure is not really 5%, it's about 15%, but it also creates 85% of the problem. So we are not really looking at amounts here or the weight. We are looking at the problem that even that small fraction poses to the environment.
Now, let me engage Benson, who is joining us once again from Morocco. Benson, with this move by, you know, so many East African countries, we have Rwanda, Kenya, and perhaps Uganda might join in. Do you think the East Africa region is setting some sort of precedence for the rest of Africa as far as plastic bans is concerned?
I think East Africa is quite ahead of the rest of the African regions in terms of this subject matter. I think Rwanda led the way in a very good way, and of course it is providing, I mean, it's beating the trail, which Kenya can now see that it is very possible to ban plastic bags and still have a sustainable economy. That is the direction in which the world is going. And I do believe that we are on the right track. This whole question about plastic bags being just 5% of the problem, I think is misinformed, just as the figures that are bandied around in terms of employment opportunities and economic production is far exaggerated. You remember that even if we are talking of small, I mean, little weight in terms of this problem, it has got a chain of negative effect in the ecosystem and in the environment, blockage of sewers. I mean, it also pollutes the air a lot when you burn that waste, and it doesn't really get away from the environment easily. So I think we are on the right track. In terms of the East African community as a common agenda, I think this is an idea whose time has come.
Yes.
And clearly, I think that there is need for us to move as one unit in the region, because under the East African Community Treaty, we have committed as a region to cooperate and to bring into place common platform and common standards for environmental sustainability. This, I think, is the way to move forward. And plastic bag provides us a really important opportunity to step up to the plate and lead the way for the rest of the continent.
Well said, Benson. I think that will serve as your final comment. Now, Dr. Stanley, Rwanda has already fully implemented its ban. They started off in the year 2008. Kenya is following suit. And this is not the first time that Kenya has banned plastic bags in the country. Actually, this is the third time. What makes you believe that this time NEMA, of course, the country is going to be successful as far as the ban is concerned?
There is both the divide, the business side and also the political side, that they are willing, there's political will. And to top it up, we have the Kenyans themselves that have seen the effect from the livestock, the way things are, the way it's littered, the way we are suffering from floods, blockage of drainage systems.
Yes.
And Kenyans themselves now, and you'd see on 28th, each and every household, they're all discussing the issue of this issue to do with plastic bags. And congratulations to Professor and NEMA and the Jubilee government, Kenyan people, because they have all participated. Yes. But now what is of critical importance is not to let it at this time. Implementation is very important. Continuous action and awareness, which will make sure that this happens. And I request the media world to be able to support this all the time. Let it be discussion. Sometimes let's get a bit out of this politics that we have all the time. We focus on ensuring that our environment going to be good for all of us. And when it comes to job creation, it's true what the director has said, that the manufacturers had also this wait and see attitude. But now they are seeing reality is coming, and this is going to happen. I believe this time around, it's going to happen, and we need to support it to the letter. And the Director General, from all other stakeholders, I believe this is happening. And
let me bring in Dr. Isaac once again to this conversation. And Dr. Isaac, let me just go through quickly some of these statistics here. And initially, Kenya used to produce about 4,000 tons of plastic every month. That translates to about 224 million plastic bags in the country. There are those who come from the school of thought that this, I mean, there can be a reduction of plastic bags, but it cannot be completely eliminated.
I'll give you an example that may sound very interesting, but it is a fact. There are people who hate trees as they grow because of a little action that was made to them when they were in school. They were made to dig a hole, plant a tree, and this was a punishment in primary school. So what happens is that as the tree grows, then they hate the tree. What we need to do to remove this is to first and foremost create an opportunity. Yes, there are those figures. There is a lot of plastic in our environment. We can remove it strategically by planting this in the minds of our little children in schools to inculcate this culture of collecting these plastics. Two, to deal with issues of law where you can see the current law may sound very punitive, yet we can create through those community related kind of punishment where a person carrying these or misdemeanors of carrying plastic bags is subjected to collecting that. Number three, an issue where the county governments and even the regional governments start dealing and giving policy where plastics shall be used to create plastic poles that will be used so that each county government will say we shall not use for the next 5 years any cement poles or any wood poles, but we can use plastic poles. You will get all this cleaning up of the environment with issues that are very, very interesting. Creative justice that has been seen elsewhere is something that may be used to help us to clean the environment. Yes, it is clean. Where there is a will, there is a way. And we can definitely do this very innovatively. But as I finish, tell an African person to conserve the environment and you'll be left alone. But show them how to make money. Use it as a bait, and they will go in that direction. Show them the reason why they are doing this, as they also are able to place food on their good tables. This is what we need, and it's about livelihoods creation.
Well said, Dr. Isaac. Allow me to cross over to Professor Wahungu once again, who is in Mombasa. Now, Prof, one of the alternatives to plastic bags that we are currently seeing in the Kenyan market is the paper bag. And at this moment, we're talking about Kenya is losing about 12,000 acres of trees, every year. Are we seeing some sort of, Kenya moving from a frying pan to the fire?
Not really. First of all, paper is not made from hardwood. It's made from softwood. And in the past, I think as we look at achieving goals of Vision 2030, including those of afforestation, we have not created markets and opportunities for on-farm agroforestry and business opportunities for people who grow trees so that trees can be worth growing. So it is very important to note that trees are not going to be at risk from this ban just because we are going to revert to paper. In fact, it's an opportunity that every Kenyan, when we ask them that you ensure that 10% of your land is made of tree cover, this is going to be an incentive because farmers can then get value for their trees. Therefore, I think that also if you look at these opportunities that are created by the trees being used for making paper, other locally available materials like cotton, which we want to revive. The government has shown interest in reviving that, and also the sisal sector. All these are grown on farm, and these are opportunities for Kenyans, local opportunities as compared to imports that come to pollute our environment.
Well said. Now, Dr. Stanley, you've been in Rwanda before, and they've successfully implemented their own plastic ban since the year 2008. Do you think there's some lessons Kenya can draw from Rwanda?
Strict adherence to the rules and the procedures and acceptance that we don't need to have paper bags, even in our bags. So each and every person, and in fact in Kenya, after 28th, there is a time people are saying the police are stopping people on the roadblock, and those are the learnings from Rwanda. Those Kenyans that have once gone to Rwanda, they appreciate that the police could stop you, and the people from the NEMA could inspect even your bags, even inside the car, and you'll be reprimanded for that. But also on the positive side, what we need also to do as a country, we need to support the NEMA. We need also to see how we can work with the political class so that they can put budgetary provisions whereby, for example, like right now, how do we create employment and income for most of the young people? Yes. The other day, the CS had a very good discussion with the young people, the less advantaged in the society, that there's a way they can collect and be paid. But that was not very clear, because if that came clear, that by whatever kilograms of paper bags that you'll collect, then that one could have worked very well. And you could see right now people that could have focused on that.
Before I come to you, I think that will serve as your final comment, Dr. Stanley. Before I come to you, Dr. Isaac, let me get some final thought from Professor Geoffrey Ohungu, who is the NEMA Director General. Now, Prof, do you think there's need to have some sort of a good political will from politicians so that, you know, this ban can be fully implemented?
Ibrahim, we already have good political will. What we are enjoying now is good political will. The government has always made it clear that this ban is actually a ban by the government. It's actually not, we are not looking at it as a ban by the ministry. It is actually a government directive. And therefore we have that. What going forward now we find is that the mop-up is also a government function.
Yes.
We have seen different government departments coming together, youth and gender, environment, and we are working together to mop up so that we can now start monitoring on whether this is working. What then next we would expect is that when Parliament resumes, that we'll get more budget so that we can be able to implement this, because I think it will require a lot of resources. And then, of course, again, on political will, the Council of Governors have pronounced themselves to these and say they support the ban. But as soon as this settles down and county governments are working, we expect that in the county assemblies, this law or this Gazette notice will be domesticated in counties, because waste management is a devolved function and it's a county government. So
well said, Prof. Let me now return back to Dr. Isaac. Yeah, Dr. Isaac, your final thought before we end the discussion?
The mere fact that we are discussing these kind of issues in Kenya, it means that we have advanced very far as a country and as an African nation. The fact that also Kenya has managed to take this point through up to the point that we have banned plastic, getting to the League of California and other countries also in Africa like Rwanda, it means that we are ready as a nation to do greater things for common good. Now we need to start thinking and having common laws within our countries. If Rwanda has done it successfully, if California and other countries like France are doing it successfully,
yes,
what else should we be thinking about? I am glad that we are already talking of reviving the cotton industry, which is a multi-billion industry that will benefit the nation and our economies of Africa. I suggest very kindly that the East African countries and Africa at large should be able to take up these laws and take and run with them. The time for planning is long gone. And I want to salute our country, Kenya, and also the East African country as an example, because we have enacted very good laws that are now practical. If you look at the last 5 years, the laws that have been enacted that favor the environmental issues, including the setting up of the climate change institution in Kenya that is headed by the president, it means that Kenya and other African countries can do much more. We need to share what we have, move from plan to action, because Africa is ripe to get into the next level.
And I think the
world.
East Africa region have already started off. Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, and perhaps Tanzania are going to join the bloc shortly in banning the plastic ban. Many thanks, Dr. Isaac Kalua, for your input. Dr. Isaac is a Green Africa Foundation, is the founder of Green Africa Foundation, as well as NEMA Director General Professor Geoffrey Wahongo, environmental law expert Benson Ocheng, who joined us live from Morocco, as well as Dr. Stanley Karanja, who is a business and a political analyst. Many thanks, all of you, for your input within this program. Now, our images of the day are from a children taekwondo tournament in Nigeria. The event is hosted by Nigerian taekwondo star Chika Chukwumerije for children in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. The heavyweight champion says the sport of taekwondo teaches children confidence and helps them develop the discipline needed to study and become responsible adults.
Don't try anything funny or stuff like that. I can defend myself. And like street, like probably when I walk on the street, somebody wants to like get my bag or something like that, I can easily defend myself. That's why I do taekwondo, for self-defense.
And that discipline is carried outside the sports to the education. They can study for longer hours. They can conform to the rules of society to make them responsible. Of course, confidence. In the dojan, you are constantly taught to confront your challenges.
Well, it's about time we look at our proverb of the day. And finally, to the bottom line tonight. It is the third week now since Kenya banned the use of plastic carrier bags like we have seen in a report from Rwanda. This move is not exclusive to Kenya. In fact, the country is just one among a dozen other African countries that have declared war on plastic pollutants. Worldwide, over 40 countries have already effected a similar ban. In Kenya's case, trash bin liners as well as plastic bags for disposing medical waste and chemicals are exempt from the ban, as are plastic bags used for industrial packaging of products. Fact is, thousands of jobs are at stake. But on the flip side, the ban creates new opportunities already. And already traders are selling canvas bags, baskets, and, tote bags in markets as well as online. Now, the talk about environmental conservation cannot only be left to big boys who sit in conferences in glorious cities around the world to discuss climate change and other human contributing factors. Whilst the big boys discuss environment and climate financing and strike deals at the international level, it is also good a time to evaluate our own contribution to environmental conservation. But first, an understanding of what being green means. I'd like to quote Dr. Isaac Kalua, the chair of the Green Africa Foundation, who defines green in 3 ways. He believes being green starts with our values and ethics as systems, as individuals. How do we treat people? Are we kind? Do we care about our neighbors as we do ourselves? Secondly, being green involves working towards good health, peace within communities and creating sustainable livelihoods. Lastly, it is about passionate environmental conservation. So whether you're making briquettes from biodegradable waste in Uganda or engaging in simple cleanup exercises in your neighborhood, as instructed by President Magufuli of Tanzania, you too have a role to play in protecting the environment. As Nobel laureate Wangari Maathai once said, it's the little things that count. What's your little thing? That is the bottom line tonight. And that brings us to the end of our program tonight. Many thanks for watching. Remember, this show is aired every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 11 p.m. See you tomorrow, same place, same time. Bye-bye for now. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. Have a very good night.